Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's developer coaching webinar. My name is Tara Van Cleve, and I'm part of the developer relations organization here at Oracle. Today, we're excited to show you how to develop Oracle Autonomous AI Database Agentic AI applications using the DBMS Cloud AI Agent package via live demos. I'd also like to note that we are recording the webinar, and you'll receive the replay via the same email that you registered with after the event concludes. If you have any questions, we've enabled the Q&A section of the Zoom and we'll answer throughout the hour as well as leave some time at the end for any remaining open questions. Today's webinar will be presented by Derek Cameron, Master Principal Cloud Architect on the Oracle Virtual Code Innovate team. So without further ado, Derek, over to you to take it away.
Great, thanks, Tara, and welcome to our presentation on Autonomous Database Agentic AI using the DBMS Cloud AI Agent package. Joining me today on the Code Innovate team is Pete, Chip, Steve, and Shane. All of us work on the Code Innovate team, and Steve will be presenting an introduction to that program at the end of this, end of the technical content. So let's get started. So I'll be covering an introduction to autonomous database agents. I will go through in detail the setup for 4 different use cases, each a little bit different to showcase certain features and show the conversational flow using those agents. We do have baked into our main vector search, natural language to SQL search, our main database 26 AI search demonstration. We baked in the agentic flow into that. Steve maintains a workshop, so everything you see today, hands-on, can be implemented by walking through that workshop. I'll show that to you near the end of the presentation. I'll cover a little bit agents under the covers. I mean, what exactly is agents doing? And then Steve will complete the presentation with an introduction to the Code Innovate program. Whoops. So this is a follow-on to previous presentations. If some of you have been following us, we've been doing this for a little over 2 years. And I don't have the 2024 presentations listed here. I've dropped them off, but I would suggest you go back if you're interested in some of the related topics. Go back to the January presentation. We covered Select AI, vector search, Select AI with RAG, and generative AI agents. In June, we covered a more comprehensive overall integrated demo on that. This is all technical content, to be clear. If you're developers, it should appeal to you because we show you the detailed code to implement these. And then in July, we covered integrating the database AI features with Oracle Digital Assistant. So you don't have to use the database as your chat front end. You have choices. And then in October, Shane and I covered the Apex AI Assistant. So that's good background material because I'll be skipping over some of these techniques when I do the deep dive into the agent content. So agents, what are they? Well, they're like smart helpers designed to independently carry out specific tasks. They can read information, you can give it instructions, make decisions based on responses from users, all on their own based on the instructions and the goals that you give it. I'm not going to go through this in detail, but when we first started doing AI use cases, they were all about retrieving information from the database using a conversational chat interface. The 2 things came up immediately. One is this secure? And 2.5 years ago, we were using OpenAI. The data was going across the internet. That pretty much shut us down from doing Code Innovates when Oracle started introducing their own hosted models in OCI. That opened up the opportunities for customers to securely implement these. But very quickly after that, the very second thing that came up were questions around, okay, I'm getting the data, I can query the data, I'm getting responses. This is really useful, but can I take some actions on that? And when agentic AI was released back around AI World, it gave us now a whole framework for defining agents in the database, not outside the database. They're in the database that allows you to do complex multi-step scenarios to achieve goals, allowing to do multiple things in a conversational flow. Previous to this, there were questions and answers, all within a conversational flow, but there was no multi-step process. You did each step was discrete. Each step may have considered previous questions. They were discrete steps. Now with an agentic flow, you could, for example, implement an approval workflow that involves multiple steps in a conversation that can span not only minutes, which is what we've been doing with query chats, but they could last days, even weeks, and have that context maintained through a persistent conversation context. So it really opens up much more broadly what we can do. We can pretty much do anything PL SQL can do, anything we can define a custom tool to do. The examples that I show you are going to be executing OCI REST calls. As many of you know, the Oracle database can communicate outside the database using credentials, using API keys, using REST calls. It can be your hub, and why not? All your data is in the database. So yeah, it's a simple automated framework to build, deploy, and manage AI agents. There are tools that come with the agent by default. I'll cover those in a minute. But the really critical thing, at least in my mind, is the ability to define your own custom tools. It's just PL SQL code. I've been with Oracle, working with Oracle for 35 years. I've got tons, customers have millions of packages and procedures and applications they've written in PL SQL. All of that can be now called in a conversational flow by the AI agent within the database. It has automatic long-term and short-term memory management for conversational control, auto-scalable, and uses an open agent specification. So supports reasoning. You give it instructions. Agents have a role. You describe what the role of the agent is and their task. And based on what the user is asking of them, they can use their role and the directions in the tasks to make decisions. Where do I go? What tools do I need to use? What tools do I need to execute? What do I need to input into those tools? The amazing thing is you define a PL SQL function. It requires 3 inputs. You don't tell the agent anything other than there's the function. Use it. It looks at the spec, knows it needs 3 inputs, asks for those 3 inputs, passes them on to the function, and executes that. You don't need to code all that yourself. The language model understands that by looking at the code spec. Invokes tools, also looking at what you ask it. If you ask it to do an employee appraisal for so-and-so and they don't supply the information as requested, it'll say, hey, you haven't provided this. You haven't provided your goals or achievements. It looks at that. It knows that's what's needed, and it comes back. Previously, you would have to write a boatload of code to take into account and validate all those validations, tedious validations. A lot of that's just automatically handled by agents. Again, if you're looking at using other non-Oracle database technologies, of course, all of that conversational flow to spread across the network. Different tools have to have information about the questions, the conversations. Some of that information might be on your laptop, outside of the database, SaaS logging systems, etc. With AI agent, it's contained entirely within the Oracle database. You want to use row-level security. You want to use the hundreds of things that I've used over all these years. It's all now available to you without having to code, code outside of that. If there was one slide that kind of describes agents in a nutshell, it's this one. Every agent flow needs four things. It needs an agent team. An agent team has agents and tasks. Then the agent has one or more tasks, and tasks has one or more tools. And so you really pose your questions, your requests to a team, and then it flows down from there. The team has an agent. The agent has instructions to tasks. And really at the heart of the flow itself is the task directions. And I'll get into that. You'll see that on in the code that I'm going to show you. These are the tools provided out of the box: RAG tool, SQL tool. I'll be using those. RAG tool is a vector search. SQL tool is like Select AI. The web search, notifications, integration with Slack, email. MCP is roadmap. MCP is not yet integrated with agents. MCP tools, when MCP server, when it comes out shortly, does require agent configuration. It doesn't really come without some kind of setup yourself. It's not magic. You do need to connect MCP servers to agentic flows. And so the backbone, the infrastructure that's behind and driving MCP. Now you might ask yourself, well, now I have MCP. Why don't I just use that? Well, it's going to be a lot slower. If you get there's some direction on that on the announcement, is that if you've got a pure Select AI use case, you might not want to use MCP server because it's going to be having to process a lot more to achieve a very focused question answer flow. And we've done some testing, not on the MCP stuff, but Shane will be talking briefly about some things that we did to compare using pure Select AI with an agentic SQL tool, which is doing pretty much the same thing. So here's a picture of the agentic flow. You've got a team. You pose the question to the team. The team has an agent. The agent and task is combined to make a decision. The agent is attached to a language model. The task itself has tools, multiple tools, and it has to decide, well, what tool do I use? Well, the tools that it chooses, it's based on the description of what the user is asking and the instructions you've given it. It makes some decisions. Oh, I need to update the status. Oh, I need to do a vector search on some products that are in object storage. Suggest to the user, do you want this one or that one? They make a decision, then execute a process to make that order and advise the user through an email. All different tools employed. There is a PL/SQL function in this particular use case: update customer order status, execute your custom tool. There's a profile that goes behind it. I'll show you that setup. And on the left, lower left there, you'll see there are two tables: a customer table, customer order status table. So I'm going to switch gears here, and I'm going to show you a lot of the code that goes behind this. I am going to mostly walk through it because, as you probably know, if I start executing these, they take 5-10 seconds. There's lots of different use cases I've got here. And the reason I have these four separate use cases is that each one kind of showcases a little bit different. So let me just give me a second here. My tool's over here. So movie search. So movie search is a classic Select AI use case, but implemented in agents. You have an agent team, which is a support analyst, a task to analyze movies. And there's the task, uses a natural language SQL profile. And then there's the task itself, which is a type task SQL. That's one of the supplied, and the tool parameters are the profile. I put that one down because it's very straightforward and it's basically a one-to-one with what we've been doing. Even Shane and I are this week on a Code Innovate doing Select AI. And so we'll take a look at agents, but the use of Select AI, pure Select AI continues to be relevant because it's the simplest to implement and it runs the fastest, even though it's doing similar things to the agent. Product return introduces a couple of things. It introduces the notion of updating order status. Someone makes an order. It has two tools now. It has a RAG tool for a vector search on product catalogs in object storage. It's a RAG tool and also has a sale agent profile attached to it. And you can so you can implement a product return use case using those tools. This new one I created myself. Steve gave me a couple of PL/SQL functions for listing my databases, which are not in the database. They're outside the database. I wanted to show me my databases. Oh, do you want to start or stop one? What do you want to do? I say, I want to start one. It says, which one do you want to start? And oh, by the way, the PL/SQL function requires an OSID, but I just tell it, start my DGC ADW1. How does it know? Well, when I listed the databases, the OSID, I asked for all the details in the tool setup. It gave me the details, OSID and the name and the status. And I just said, start this one. And it knows, oh, it needs the OSID. I'll go get the OSID. I'll start that. So it's really handy, knowledgeable about how how to take a look at information, make decisions, and know that you need certain things. So the last one, and I won't go through this one in detail, but the appraisal workflow is kind of the more complex one. It has four agents. Agents are a manager, an employee, a VP. All of these have separate roles and tasks. They need to approve a workflow. I'll show you how that looks. It's done. It's actually one of the Apex apps. It's quite a complex multi-stage one. I wanted to show it because it involves multiple roles, different people doing different things. It has a flow. It has tasks. It has results. I wanted to show that to you. And so I have four tools, four tasks, four agents, and one team to do all of that. So the first thing you've got to do, and I'm going to do a lot of code walkthrough here, but by the way, again, reminding you, everything you see here code-wise is in the workshop we just updated. Steve updated this earlier this week. You can implement this and have a working Apex application at the end of it. So we have natural language to SQL profile. That's for the movie query. If you've seen any of our previous ones, we've covered this quite a bit. I've got a DBA profile. What's in the DBA profile is the list databases view, which again uses a function Steve built. Handy, thanks, Steve. Then there's the sales agent RAG profile. It uses a sales agent vector index. It does a vector search based on question. And again, the Agentic AI figures out, oh, I've got to do a vector search on the data. I didn't have to code a lot of that. I just call it. I just say it's in the profile. You know, you got to use it, right? So, and then lastly, I've got a grok model. So I've got these different profiles. If I want to do a question on this, I can execute this. And so here's a basic, this is classic Select AI. This is what we've been doing for 2 years, right? List my databases. Oh, I'm showing you a list of databases. There it is there. I found the following databases. And it doesn't tell you all the details about them. Why? Because I didn't ask for the detail. But in the agentic flow, I specify in the instructions in the task, I say, if they ask about this, I want you to give all of the information about the database that you have, right? So it does give you another level of control. These functions are basically the custom tools. You don't need to know what are you doing here. I have them to give you the complete picture, their custom PL SQL, and it's list ADBS tools. That is what's being executed to get back my databases. So I had to create it. There's that one. I also have a stop the database tool. It's just executing code here. And you notice that the agentic AI passes in. You see that change me up there? That is being passed in. That's what the language model sees that and is passing in the parameters there. Then there's the start ADB tool. And then the last PL SQL function we have is a customer order function. And all its purpose in life is to take in a customer name, an order number, and a status and change that status. Again, when you create an agentic flow, you don't have to tell it status, order number, customer name. The function has it, it reads it, it prompts for it, it knows it needs it to execute. Now we have the vector index. As I said, the product documents are in object storage. We need to be able to query them. We created a vector index. Again, all part of the instructions to reproduce by it. And there's the profile for that. And now let's go through each individual use case. We have, again, the classic movie select AI use case. We have a team. It's a support analyst, movie task, natural language SQL profile. It's got a SQL tool. I'm going to skip by this a little bit. I wanted it there because it's the simplest example. Then the product return use case objects. Again, a little bit more complex. If you look at the tools, we have these here. We have the update order status tool. It is a function. I created the function. You saw it earlier, the update customer order status function. And I have another parameter. It's a RAG search, and it uses the sales agent RAG profile, which references the vector index. There's kind of the connection there. And then you'll see, let's take a little bit of a look at the agent. Agent says role. You are an experienced customer return agent who deals with customer return requests. So now the agentic, the language model sees your role and based on that role can make decisions. The tool name and the instruction, let's look at that again. Instruction, this tool updates the database to reflect return status change. Always confirm username, order number before the status update. And then the description and the function, you'll notice the function there. I get that's the PL SQL function, okay? And then there's the RAG tool. So if we go down a little bit lower, and the RAG tool is a tool type of RAG, and there's the profile, which references the index. And the most important thing you recall, I was saying, kind of the guts of the flow are in the task. Handle product return task. This is kind of a little bit where most of the logic that the language model used is influenced by these instructions. Process a product return request, and you'll notice in curly brackets, query, that's your prompt. Curly bracket query is your prompt. And so that's kind of a key, it's a key tag in this tool definition. And you can see the agentic flow here. Ask the customer why it's being returned. Is it no longer needed? Is it arrived late? Is the box broken or defective? If it's no longer needed, inform the customer, update the order status. If it's late, ask if they want a refund. If it's defective, ask the customer if they want a replacement. And do they want to consider alternative recommendations? There's where it does the vector search. So if they say, yeah, I want a replacement, and they can even give you the criteria, and it will do a semantic vector search on your products to return the most relevant ones that the user has asked for. That is all part of the task definition, really key to the whole agentic flow. And then if we scroll down a little bit more, We have the agent team, and all that's on the agent team there is the agent name and the task. Everything else flows from that. Now, the other one that another one I wanted to cover is the DBA use case objects, agent objects. We have a DBA team, a DBA profile, the DBA tools, these three here. The task has three tools: DBA list tool, stop tool, start tool. And I'll show you this. Actually, I will execute this one. Got a profile, a DBA profile, which that profile has the list of databases in a database view, and a function start, stop, and list. There it is there. Let's scroll down a little bit more. Yeah, so this, just take a look at the descriptions here. This tool starts a specified database. This tool stops. These are instructions, right? They're instructions. That's what this tool does. Oh, so if the user asks for it, that's the tool I've got to use. There's the connection there. And these instructions, they can be more involved, right? You saw that a little earlier, is they can be if, then, else, do this, do this, do this, do this. I will say well, I'll go on to one more use case because I've got a point to make there. There's the instructions, by the way, there's the DBA task. You'll see there, instruction, help the user with their request about databases. There's the placeholder for the query. You can use it to search data, list detailed information. That's critical because when I did select AI, let's go back to this one, go back to this one here. That's all it gave. It didn't give the detail. But if we go back here, I tell in the task, I said list detail. Don't just list the databases. I want to see the detailed. And that is really useful for being more specific in the instructions. There it is there. And it also says use the database OCI, right? It needs the OCI. I'm not sure I even need to tell it to use the database OCI, but I wanted to make sure it was clear it needs a database OCI. So that's in the task. And then there's the team itself right there. And let's do the last one. I am not going to go through this in detail because I've got one team, 4 agents, 4 tasks, and 4 tools. But a key point I want to make here is that when I first created one of the earlier ones, I put every task, every step as its own task. And then every task had its own tool. So it was a 1-for-1-for-1. List the database, use this tool. Start the database, use this tool. Task 1, task 2, task 3. The important thing is in the team spec, these all must be executed serially. And you can't skip steps. That's the way it is right now. And I believe they are introducing a supervisor role where you can tell it, you can ask it any number of things in the team to the team, and the team will employ its own agent. It's an agent based on the description. Right now, the team must execute agent step 1, 2, 3, 4, and in that order. However, these steps can all be put in one task. And I put that out on the Slack, on the product management internal Slack channel. I said, hey, if I've got 5 steps, do I need 5 tasks, or can I put them all in one? I know if I have 5 tasks, all of them must be executed, and they must be executed in this order, but I don't necessarily want that. And they said, no, you can put it all in one task with all the steps delineated, and you can have multiple tools. It'll decide which tool to use. They've got customers who have 70, 80 tools. Think PL SQL packages, PL SQL functions in one tool, in one task. Task, multiple tools, multiple task steps, multiple tools to do those steps. They can all be done in one, but there's a design choice. I set this up separately because these are different. It's an approval workflow. Every agent it's a different person. It's a different person We have Pat, the manager, the employee, the VP. So I did separate them. So it's a design choice, right? It's a design choice. I'm going to skip through a lot of this because it's a little bit repetitive. Now let's get on to running the steams. Now remember when you did select AI, your DBMS Cloud AI dot generate. Well, this one is DBMS Cloud AI run team. You see that there. Now, much like natural language to SQL, you can do in natural language, you can set the profile and do a shorthand version. Select AI, how many movies are there? And you just say select AI, but you do need to set the profile. Now, if you look up here in agents, you just say select AI agent. What is the most popular movie? I am not a fan of the shorthand. Why? Because I can't use it in Apex because I need to call the right profile. This syntax doesn't work in database tools. It doesn't work in it works in SQL Developer, yes, but it's great for testing. It's not so good in an application. And so we have we create a conversation here. Oops, hang on a sec. You'll see I want to create a conversation. I create it here. And then I say, select AI agent. How many movies are there? But what I prefer to do, and I made this point in Select AI webinars as well, I am going to use a PL SQL block. I'm going to call the team name because I can then use different teams all in one conversational flow. I can have 5 teams. I can call whatever team I want all in one conversation. So you have way more control. If you're changing a team, you have to then set it up top there. So let's go down here, interact. I'm going to create a conversation. Here's where I'm actually going to execute something here. Create a conversation. There it is there. I'll copy that. I'm going to clear that cell output. Now I'm going to change this. I'm going to put the conversation identifier in here and run team. Hello, hello agent. So it's going to go based on my instruction in the task. It's going to go, whoops, I'm going to create DBA team. Hello, can I assist you? Sorry, I need to clear the output. Hello, can I assist you with your database? What would you like to do? And so I'm going to say list my, whoops, list my databases. And I'm going to do this all actually in Apex, but I want to show you how you can do it in here. And so I've told it I'm using a profile. I've got a function. It's a custom function to list the databases. And I've also asked for all the details. Here it is. Here is the list of your databases with detailed information per your instructions in the task. Is there anything else I'd like to help you with? And so at this point, and of course I can say start, stop, and I've got the status there. DGC ADW1 is stopped. I will start it inside Apex, but I'll say, no, all good. And because I said all good, it'll go, okay, yeah, we're all good. Thanks, bye, see you later, right? There it is, hello. And then it comes back and says, what else do you want me to do? So clear that. And then again, you can use, there is kind of one for one. I did that up higher, up earlier. I said DBMS AI generate, list databases, DBA profile, narrate. I'm using the narrate. So there's kind of a one for one. Now, to save time, I have captured the conversational flow with the product return agent. So I'm going to walk through if I executed this using the code that you see above, but using the return agency team. Select AI agent. I want to return a smartphone use case. Can you please tell me the reason? It's defective. Sorry to hear about it. What would you like? A replacement, refund, or consider alternative? Again, this is defined in the task. Sure, what are some alternatives? Doing a vector search now, you don't see that. But now you say, I wanted some alternative recommendations. The directive said, hey, go do this. Go to use the other tool tied to the vector index. I've found two alternative smartphone cases, blah, 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 blah. Would you like to go with one of these alternatives? No, I want a refund. Sorry, I'll process the refund. But again, you're calling a custom function. I need to order number and a customer name. Like, who is that? Oh, I'm Carol Chen, order 7635. Got it. Update the order status, sending an email. Thanks. See you later. That's the agentic flow with the product return, the interacting with the HR agent. I'm using now the long form. You see up top, just showing you the short form. Again, good for testing, but in Apex or some other application, you're going to use the DBMS Cloud AI Agent Run Team. And you'll see here, I'd like to request a performance appraisal for one of my subordinates. That's right there. It says who's initiating the request. There's three inputs for this function, and you don't tell it. It's like, oh, I've got to ask that. My name, the initiator is Bo. And so then it says who's it for? The appraisal's for Pat. And what's the name of the appraisal? The name is pretty creative, My Appraisal. And then it goes on. Oh, now we've got a new agent. Hey, Pat, your manager, Bo, has initiated appraisal called My Appraisal. Provide your achievements and past fiscal year-end goals for the coming year. So I I got this appraisal, by the way, from the internet. I just said, give me a sample appraisal. It was for Jane and it said sample. I put this in the agentic flow and it said, hey, this is for Pat. You're giving me Jane's. Like, no, you need to resubmit this. It did do that. It read my response. It said, no, Jane, I need Pat's. And it says, I don't want a sample. I want your real appraisal. So I had to remove the word sample, remove the word Jane, replace the employee name Pat. And here it is. I typed, I pasted all this in the Apex chat interface. And then the manager appraisal, dear Bo, as a supervisor, now you need to comment on their performance, blah, blah, blah. And then I kind of said, hey, he's not such a hot shot, blah, blah, blah. But here's your objective for the coming year. And then it goes on for the final approval, which is VP approval. And then it finishes. So yeah, you can see it can have this conversational flow over days, weeks. It has multiple roles, multiple steps, executing custom. And thanks to Shane for giving me all the Apex PL SQL functions, because this is all done. You can execute this flow in Apex, sure, but I wanted to execute it in an agentic flow outside of Apex. And if you go in here and execute this step by step by step, you will see in Apex, you'll see that appraisal workflow work through the various steps in the approval workflow designer. You'll see those steps. So it's pretty cool. Now, there are some great detailed views to support like what is going on. And so query to retrieve the logs. Here it is here. That's just the latest logs. It's basically giving you all the prompt history for every agentic request prompt. It is stored and maintained in DBA, in user agent task history tables. What does it give you? And again, this code that you just see right here, this is just like, oh, I just want the specific names and I want the latest one. So don't get wrapped around, it doesn't have to be this complicated. You can just literally say select star, but it'll give all of them. And then here it is. This is one request. Current task, help the user with their requests about databases, useful previous conversational context. It's all right there. So you say this isn't a black box. It's all that gory detail as to why it's doing what it's doing is logged. Super, super helpful. I looked at this and I thought, okay, this tells me what is going on, why it's doing what it's doing. And there it tells you this is the tool I'm using. These are the arguments that are getting passed. This is all on one response. There's the action, the exact name of one tool, list it, blah, blah, blah. There it is there. That's all one question, one answer, one prompt, all in the DBA views captured on every question. Now, coming to a bit of a close on the code review here is, okay, I've got select A and I've got the agent SQL tool. Like, which one would I use? Well, they're pretty similar and the setup's pretty easy, but you do need to define the agent over and above the select AI. And the last thing, and we got this literally a couple of weeks ago, the customer said, I want the language model to come back with prompt questions. And we're like, select AI doesn't do that. And so Shane ran off and said, "Oh, we might have to actually use the chat interface, which means I have to get all the metadata. I need to set the preamble. I need to do all of this." You can roll your own. You can say, you know what? I want complete control over everything. And so he created this. It is a bit of a boatload of code. That's what he created just to support a question that said, here it is, and there he is. He's calling this function he wrote and using the SQL, and he's using the action chat. This is instructional. Would you use this? Almost never, but it gives you an insight into what's going on under the covers, and it's a fallback if all else fails on your agentic flow. So, and there it is telling it, clarify which specific table or schema should I use. He forced that. He created that so that it would ask back another question. So that's where that comes into play. We did do some tests on performance response. Shane, maybe you want to comment on this because it literally did this yesterday because I thought, oh, if I've got select AI, what's one faster than the other? How do I compare apples to apples? Yeah, you want to comment on this at all, Shane?
Yeah, absolutely. So what you're looking at right now is a comparison of different models that are hosted on OCI, where the second column is using your traditional select AI.generate, and the other one is using the agents that Derek just talked about. And that agent has a single tool that is a SQL tool that is looking at the same select AI profile, right? So they both have the same underlying data set. The only difference is one is pointing directly to the view, while the other one has a tool that looks at that same view, right? So what I was testing is if our goal is just to return data from our database, do we need an agent to do that? And so there are a couple key takeaways here. The important part is that I asked 20 questions to both these models. It's important that we're not interpreting these results as metrics or expectations for the models because the data set that I personally tested on was limited in scope and complexity. But they should be viewed as relative to one another, right? Since they were all tested identically against the same underlying view with the same questions, the same patterns, it kind of gives us some insights into which models we want to use, right? So the first chart, which you're seeing right now, shows that for any given model, an agent that has a single SQL tool tends to be a bit slower, right? Sometimes maybe 2 times slower, sometimes maybe even 3 times slower, depending on the model. Why is that? Well, because the agent has to interpret the question. It has to decide which tool, if any, it needs to use. It has to access that tool, and then so on, and provide the answer back, where Select AI has one goal in mind, and that is to return a valid SQL statement, right? Can you go to the second photo? So while he brings this up, the second important thing is that the agents, all things equal, they do tend to be, I guess, more correct, right? So an agent for a Grok 3 model was able to answer all 20 out of 20 questions correct without any failures, but that same Grok 3 model, the same underlying data set, had a couple of errors for Select AI, right? And these errors could be changed. They could be fixed by adding more comments to the tables or adding more insights so Select AI can provide a valid SQL statement. However, again, all things equal, the agent was able to answer the question while Select AI wasn't. So kind of sum that up. But you can see here, let's take rows 8 and 9, right? So one is using select AI, one is using agent. You can see that select AI is quicker, like we just mentioned, but it did get an answer wrong where the agent got it right. Again, same data set, same instructions. So there's a trade-off there, right? Are we focusing on speed? Are we focusing on result quality? Are we focusing on a hybrid approach? And as expected, you can see here as well that the lightweight models, Gemini Flash Lite, Grok 3 Fast, tend to be a bit quicker, right, as expected. And a lot of times we also get asked, what is the best model, right? Well, I don't know if there's a concrete answer for the best model. Just by the testing of these 13 or so models, you can see that Grok tends to be closer to the top for both Select AI and AI agents. And the very last thing I'd like to mention is row 7. Row 7, where the agent had, I believe, the fastest time using the GPT OSS model, just 8 seconds to return a valid response on my data set. However, the response count was quite high. 16 out of 20 questions were incorrect. And so the reason the response time was so low is because it almost immediately returned an error or an issue every single time. I think there might be an issue with that model specifically on Select AI. So just wanted to point that out because it was a personal finding of mine. But for the rest of them, you can see that if you're just using an agent for the sole purpose of retrieving data from a single SQL tool, maybe you can also consider just using Select AI and ignoring the agent altogether. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Shane. So I just want to go to the Apex application. You might recognize this as an application on our previous webinars. I've updated it a fair bit thanks to Shane. He's the Apex guru, gave me my homepage here. A lot of the underlying search, this is a comprehensive search 23 AI Apex application. You can install this based using the workshop that Steve put together. Everything you see here is available when you run through that workshop. It's got a homepage, view my data, search, add documents. I'm just going to touch on a couple things before I do the agentic search. Because I've added agentic search here, you want to look at PDF documents, you want to ask questions about the PDF documents, you go there. If I want to ask a question, I can just click on a search here and I can go in, ask a question. I can search documents, PDF documents, Word documents. I can also go into images. I can look at handwritten stuff. It'll interpret all this. This is all part of the previous demonstration. Don't want to focus on that, but it's all baked into this particular demo. There's search, there is searching documents, vector search across documents, searching documents with ubiquitous search, combining search techniques, global search, hybrid search, search conversations, search results. Again, all of this was covered in a previous webinar and it's been combined now with run agent teams. So if I pick a team, let's go to the DBA team and just say hello. And I'm in a conversation now. You'll see the conversation was generated when I go into the Apex app. It says hello and it says, oh, hey, Derek. I mean, it can be configured to show who you are. And then the prompt is list my databases. You remember I did that in SQL, but now we're doing it in the Apex app. There it is there. It's given me that same information. And you'll notice DGC ADW1 is stopped. I would say, please start database DGC ADW1 and understand that that particular one requires, again, the OSID, but I'm going to do that. And then it's going to, it has this as context. Remember, we saw that in the thing. Your request has been successfully initiated. So now I say, my databases, and it should show it as starting or already started, right? Yeah. So it's going back, executing the function to list the database. There it is there. You'll see it starting. And I was going to go through the appraisal workflow. It's all an app inside Apex here, controllable by simply going here and picking the appraisal workflow team or the movie agent team, the return agent team. Each of these has agentic flows. But we're running out of time a little bit. I do want to leave you with, again, the notion that if you want to run all of this, the agent stuff, the vector search, image search, uh, hybrid search, all of that is all part of the code that is in this workshop. And we'll go there. This has been updated again earlier this week. All of this is in there: ubiquitous search, vector, natural language, SQL document, hybrid. So yeah, so there it is there. Go to this link and you can install this on your own environment, including everything, accessing the region, setting up your ACLs, credentials, everything, all of that is in the integrated demo. So there it is there. So yeah, so with all of that, I will pass it back to Steve to talk about the Code Innovate team. Steve, I'll stop sharing.
Great. Thank you, Derek. One note I'd like to make on the content in the GitHub link. We still need to update some of the content, specifically the Apex application. So if you go pull that Apex app now, it'll align with our previous webinar. But look for those changes to be pushed out by the end of the week. Also in the GitHub content URL, there is a section where it says Code Innovate previous webinars. And I know Tara also shared that link, but if you click on that, it'll take you to our YouTube channel where all the previous webinars that Derek called out throughout his presentation is available for you to watch. Now, I'd like to take just a few minutes to introduce the Virtual Code Innovate program. Derek and I are part of the developer experience team, and one of the programs that we offer is a Virtual Code Innovate. You may ask yourself, what is a Virtual Code Innovate? It's simply a hands-on introduction to OCI cloud services. The event itself takes place in a singular week, Monday through Friday, and is 4 hours a day. Our engineers work online with your team. Your team is hands-on doing the build, and the Oracle engineers assigned to your Code Innovate instructs you, guides you, coaches you along the way on how to build something. We found that this model facilitates rapid knowledge sharing and helps for you to get up to speed in leveraging the OCI cloud services. One of the key starting points with a Virtual Code Innovate is use cases. We leverage your use cases. We don't come to you with canned demos or things that we want you to try. We want you to build something that's relevant and pertinent and important to your business. And lastly, I'd like to note that there's no cost associated with a Virtual Code Innovate as long as you meet the minimum requirements, which I'll cover here in a minute. So prior to the Code Innovate event itself, there's typically 3 to 5 weeks lead time minimum leading up to the actual Code Innovate event. We do what's called pre-event structured learnings and tendency config. And the goal there is you may be new to a service or you may be new to a feature within an existing service that you leverage. We want to provide you with a baseline awareness of that service. That can be done in the form of a demo, a workshop, and then also, and more importantly, if it's a new service, we want to make sure that everything's spun up and configured in your environment so that on day one of the event, all the services are available and people who are going to attend it on your side can access those services. And so we like to do that leading up to the Code Innovate. And so this is how a typical Code Innovate experience works. We ask for you to bring use cases to the table. What do you want to work on? What do you want to explore? Is it an Apex use case? Is it a Select AI agent use case? Vector search? We cover other services. Is it Oracle Integration Cloud? use case? Is it Oracle Analytics Cloud, OAC? But we ask you to bring use cases to the table. We work with you to come up with use cases that are viable for 20-hour Code Innovate. We also make sure that we align the proper resources and engineers for those use cases so that you get the best experience on how to build. And then at the end of that event week, you'll have a first pass prototype or minimum viable product. So you'll have something that you've built, and then you can demonstrate to other people within your organization. These are the parameters or requirements that we ask for Code Innovate. We ask for use cases. Again, they have to be suitable and something that we support. We don't support everything in the OCI ecosystem, but we do support a lot. We ask for a full 20-hour commitment during the event. We ask for 4 or more developers. We use the term developer loosely. That could be a report builder in OAC or an integration builder in OIC or an Apex application developer. But we ask for 4 more participants from your side. And like I said earlier, a minimum of 3 weeks lead time, and sometimes more depending on the services that are available. Resources can be tight sometimes. And then this is a timeline. So you'll see that it kind of starts with use cases and an event date. We want to make sure that we're working on something that's relevant that we can help you with. Once that's confirmed, and then we start to work backwards. So we have use case discussions, typically a half hour to 30 to an hour per week leading up to the event. We want to make sure we understand your use case. We have the right resources aligned for the Code Innovate. And then we also cover structured learnings and tendency config. If you're new to autonomous database, you may have to spin up an autonomous database. We help you with that, or an OIC instance or an OIC instance or whatever. And then the actual event week itself is the conclusion of the Code Innovate experience timeline. If you're interested in the Code Innovate, I believe Tara will share this in the chat. She will also send all this information out in an email after the event, but we do have an email address that you can email us with your interest, your use cases, and then we can start the dialogue and conversation with you on a possible Code Innovate. So thank you very much, and thank you, Derek and Shane, and I'm going to turn it back over to Tara now.
Awesome, thank you. If you enjoyed today's session, this is a series, and we'd like to invite you to attend our upcoming webinars, which can be found at oracle.com/developer/events. And then we'd also love to hear your feedback on today's session and on what topics you'd like for us to cover in the future. So as you leave the Zoom room, a short survey is going to pop up to share that feedback. With that, I will go ahead and say thank you so much for spending your time with us today. Have a great day, and we hope to see you at the next one. Thanks, everybody.